And as I was hanging there, I realized I'm an idiot. I'm a cell biologist. I'm a physician. I deal with drugs all day. I know molecules. And I thought, I'm going to figure this out. So I made a promise to myself 10 years ago to figure out why we aged and then to figure out what to do about it. And I did.
From a scientific approach.
All scientific. It is all
Yes.
cellular biology. It's got, in my world, it has nothing to do with diet and exercise. It
No.
is all to do with cellular biology.
Right. And what does that mean to the layperson? I know it's in your book, and I'm gonna for sure get a copy of the book. There's no question about that. And so in the first half of the book in particular, you talk about the seven.
Seven tenets of aging.
Okay.
Yes. All right. So realizing that most people out there are not scientists,
Right.
they have to understand several things. The first thing is that your body is made out of cells,
Yeah.
right? We can talk about our soul or our enthusiasm or whatever you want, but when push comes to shove, you're made out of cells,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
The cell product. And cells diminish or have problems for very specific reasons,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
It depends on how you count them, right? They talk about the hallmarks of aging. There are lots of different things that people talk about, but it's horribly disorganized, and it drove me nuts.
Yeah.
So,
Still is.
right, it's incredibly annoying. So what I did is I took, and honestly, no one really paid attention to the hallmarks of aging. I did this started this a decade ago.
Right.
So I took all of the reasons that cells decline and put them in seven categories,
Yeah.
which I call the seven tenets. And not to bore anyone to pieces, but very like high level stuff. Like tenet one is failure of your DNA, right? Very specific problems with your DNA occur over time. Very
Yeah.
specific. Category two or tenet two is mitochondria that creates the energy for your system. Your
Right.
mitochondria age for seven specific reasons, right? Tenet three is your pathways. This is your ability to sense the world in terms of nutrients, energy, that sort of thing, and then create cellular pathways to fix it. So these are your sirtuins, your AMP kinase, and your mTOR pathway, which actually should be very important to you because the mTOR pathway is what builds muscle over time, right?
Right.
Tenet four is what I call quality control. This is the idea that your cell is a factory and things break and you have to fix them, right?
Right.
So this is DNA repair mechanisms, this is protein repair mechanisms, and something called autophagy, which is the idea that if something in your cell breaks, you can recycle the parts and use them again to save energy.
Right.
There's a whole lot of autophagy science.
Right.
Tenet five is your immune system that becomes your inflammatory system over the course of time. Anyone over the age of 40 is walking around in a very inflamed state, and that causes cancer and DNA damage and a variety of other things. Tenet six is what I call individual cell needs. And this is the idea that a stem cell has to be protected, senescent cells need to be eradicated, and the idea that like a brain cell has a different requirement than a liver cell or a red cell. So very specific cellular like being addressed. And then the last tenet, tenet seven, is what I call waste management. And this is mostly glycation issues. So glucose and other reducing sugars wreak havoc in the body for a variety of different ways, and we need to sort of get rid of that. And then lastly in that category is something called the accumulation of lipofuscin, which is sort of cell waste that the cell doesn't know what to do with.
What was the last in that category you said? I didn't hear it.
So it's lipofuscin accumulation.
Okay.
So when a cell decides to recycle pieces and parts in the autophagy category, it's usually left with a glob of stuff that the cell doesn't know what to do with. So it usually shoves it in the back of the cell, and it just sits there. And over time, in long-lived cells, especially neurons, it just accumulates and it causes problems with like memory and such as you get older.
Right.
But anyway, so those are all of the reasons that you age.